Hello, friends. My name is Margaret. I'm 62 years old and I live in Orlando, Florida. What I'm about to share with you happened 3 months ago and completely changed my family's life. It's a story about how a simple act of kindness can uncover the most painful truths about the people we love. Before we dive in, leave a comment telling me where you're watching from. And don't forget to subscribe to the Vintage Revenge Stories channel. We're building a community of amazing women who know that our best chapters can happen at any age. Now, back to the story. It was a Saturday in March, around 5 in the afternoon. I was driving along Interstate 4 on my way to the 75th birthday party of Harold, my son Michael's father-in-law. The party was at his home in Winter Park, one of those old mansions with huge gardens that cost a fortune. Harold always made sure everyone knew he had money, you know the type. I was already late. I had promised Michael I'd be there by 6 sharp to help with the preparations. My son has always been very organized and detail-oriented, and I knew he was counting on me. Sarah, my daughter-in-law, would also be there with the kids, Emma, who's 8, and Tyler, who's 12. It was important for me to show up. So when I saw that black Bentley pulled over on the shoulder, hood up, with a well-dressed man in a suit waving at cars, my first instinct was to keep driving. After all, I was already late, and a man with a car like that surely had premium insurance and 24-hour roadside assistance. Right? But something made me stop. Maybe it was the desperate way he waved, or the fact that it was almost dark and starting to rain. My mother always taught me we should help others, no matter who they are. I took the next exit and turned back. The man looked to be in his early 50s, with neatly groomed gray hair and expensive glasses. When I pulled over, he walked up to my window with a look of relief. "Thank you for stopping, ma'am. My name is Richard Blackwood. My car broke down and my phone's dead. Could you give me a ride to the nearest gas station?" The name sounded familiar, but I couldn't place it. Richard Blackwood. Where had I heard that before? "Of course. Get in," I said. "I'm Margaret Torres." On the way, Richard was polite and very grateful. He told me he lived in Miami but was in Orlando on business. He said he had an important meeting the next day and needed to take care of the car quickly. At the station, he called a tow truck and then turned to me. "Margaret, how can I ever thank you? You saved my night." "There's no need for that, Richard. It was my pleasure to help." But he insisted, pulling out his wallet and handing me a business card. "Here's my card. If you ever need anything at all, call me." I looked at the card and nearly dropped it. Richard Blackwood, CEO, Blackwood Industries. My God, he was the Richard Blackwood, the billionaire who owns one of the biggest tech companies in Florida. I had just read about him in Forbes last week. You're Richard Blackwood from Blackwood Industries." He gave a modest smile. "Guilty, but today I'm just a man who needed help and found an angel named Margaret." I slipped the card into my purse, still in shock. A billionaire. I had just helped a billionaire. By the time I finally got to Harold's house, it was well past 7:30. The party was in full swing. I parked on the street. The circular driveway was packed with expensive cars, and walked up to the front door. Sarah greeted me at the entrance, but her expression wasn't the relief I expected. "Where have you been, Margaret? Michael is furious. He said you ruined his plans." "Ruined? Sarah, I was only an hour and a half late." I explained. I had to help someone on the road. An hour and a half that was crucial, according to him. I went inside, looking for Michael to explain. I found him in Harold's study, a sophisticated room with wood paneling and shelves full of expensive books. Harold was there too, the two of them whispering about business as always. Michael, sweetheart, I'm so sorry for the delay. I stopped to help a man on the road and... Mom, I don't want to hear excuses. He cut me off coldly. You knew I needed your help today. There were important things to take care of. I frowned. Important things. It's a birthday party. Harold stood from his leather armchair. Margaret, your son was expecting you to witness some important documents. Family matters. You understand. Documents. What documents? Michael avoided my eyes. It's not necessary anymore, Mom. We took care of it another way. Something was off. In 30 years as Michael's mother, I knew every expression on his face. He was hiding something. The rest of the party had a strange atmosphere. Michael and Harold kept whispering. Sarah looked uncomfortable every time I tried to talk to her, and even the kids were quieter than usual. Around 10 that night, I decided to leave. On the drive home, I couldn't stop thinking about Michael's reaction. What documents? Why was it so urgent that I be there? By Monday morning, my curiosity got the best of me. I called our family lawyer, Dorothy Jenkins, a woman in her 60s who'd known us since Michael was a teenager. Dorothy, can I schedule a time to talk? It's about some documents Michael mentioned over the weekend. Of course, Margaret. In fact, I need to speak with you too. How about today at 2 o'clock? Dorothy's office was downtown Orlando, in an old but well-kept building. When I arrived, she greeted me with a concerned smile. Margaret, have a seat. I need to tell you something that's been bothering me. My heart started racing. What's going on, Dorothy? Last Friday, Michael came here with Harold. They asked me to prepare documents transferring the ownership of your house to Michael's name. It felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. What? My house? Yes. Michael said you had agreed to put the house in his name for estate planning purposes, that you'd sign the papers at Harold's party on Saturday. Dorothy, I never agreed to that. No one ever mentioned transferring my house to him. She shook her head gravely. That's exactly what I feared. That's why I asked for more time to prepare the documents. Something didn't feel right. My mind was spinning. Michael wanted my house, the home I'd lived in for 25 years, the one I bought with the sweat of my brow as a nurse, the home where I raised my son after my husband died. Dorothy, is there anything else I should know? She hesitated before answering. Margaret, I might be overstepping here, but Harold mentioned that Michael's been having some financial problems, bad investment debts. Debts? But Michael works at Harold's company. He's always said he made good money. Apparently not enough to cover some very risky stock market bets. I left Dorothy's office feeling betrayed and confused. My own son trying to trick me into giving up my house. That couldn't be true. There had to be some mistake. I decided to drive straight to Michael's house to get answers. They lived in Lake Nona, an upscale neighborhood with huge homes and perfectly manicured lawns. When I arrived, Michael's car was in the driveway, but he didn't answer the door. Sarah finally appeared, her eyes red as if she'd been crying. Margaret, Michael doesn't want to talk to anyone right now. Sarah, I need to know what's going on. Dorothy told me about the papers for my house. Sarah glanced around nervously. Come in, but please, keep your voice down. The kids are in their room. We sat in the kitchen, a modern kitchen with marble countertops and high-end appliances that had always impressed me. Sarah, tell me the truth. What's happening with Michael? She started to cry. Margaret, everything's a mess. Michael lost a lot of money in the stock market. He borrowed money thinking he could win it back, but it only got worse. Now he owes nearly $300,000. $300,000. That was a fortune. And Harold? Couldn't he help? My dad said he'd only lend the money if Michael put up collateral. Your house was the collateral he wanted. My house? Harold wanted my house as collateral? Michael was desperate, Margaret. He said it would just be temporary, that you wouldn't even have to know. Once he paid off the debt, he'd put the house back in your name. Sarah, do you believe that? She lowered her head. I don't know what to believe anymore. At that moment, Michael walked into the kitchen. His eyes were bloodshot, his hair a mess. He didn't look like the successful man I once knew. Mom, what are you doing here? Michael, I came for answers. I know about the papers for my house. He slumped into a chair. Mom, you don't understand. I'm in serious trouble. I need that collateral or I'll lose everything. Son, why didn't you tell me about your financial problems? I could have helped somehow. How, Mom? You're retired. You live off Dad's pension. What kind of help could you give me? His words cut through me like a knife. Is that how he saw me? A useless old woman with nothing to offer. Michael, that house is all I have. It's where I plan to live for the rest of my life. I can't risk losing it. You're not going to lose it, Mom. It's just collateral. Harold is family. He'd never take your house. Harold has never liked me. Michael, you know that. Mom, you're being dramatic. Harold might be tough, but he's not a monster. Then why did you try to trick me? Why didn't you just tell me the truth? Michael's face turned red with anger. Because I knew you'd react exactly like this, always making things complicated, always so stubborn. I rose from the chair, feeling more hurt than I ever had in my life. Michael, you're my son and I love you, but I will not sign those papers. If you need my help, we'll find another way. Together. So you're just going to let me go bankrupt, your own family. I'm not going to let you go bankrupt, son, but I'm not going to be deceived either. I walked out of their house with a broken heart. In the car, I started to cry. Was this what I deserved after a lifetime of sacrifices for my son? After working double shifts to give him the best education possible? After spending all my savings to help him buy his first home? That's when I remembered Richard Blackwood's card in my purse. That night, at home, I stared at the card for hours. If you ever need anything at all, call me, he'd said. But what could a billionaire possibly do for my family drama? On Wednesday, I gathered my courage and called. Mr. Blackwood's office. This is Jennifer. How may I help you? Hi, my name is Margaret Torres. Last Saturday, I helped Mr. Blackwood on the road when his car broke down. He gave me this card and told me to call if I ever needed anything. One moment, Mrs. Torres. I'll connect you to Mr. Blackwood immediately. Within seconds, I heard that familiar voice. Margaret, how are you? I was thinking about you yesterday. Did you make it to the party on time? Richard, I did, but actually, that's why I'm calling. You said if I ever needed anything. Of course. What do you need? I hesitated, feeling strange asking a favor from someone I barely knew. Richard, it's complicated. It's about family, money. I'm not even sure you can help. Margaret, you saved my night on Saturday. The least I can do is listen. How about lunch tomorrow? I know a quiet place where we can talk. We met on Thursday at the Boheme, an elegant restaurant in downtown Orlando. Richard arrived right on time, wearing a perfectly tailored navy blue suit. Margaret, you look worried. Tell me what's going on. For an hour, I told him everything: the attempt to transfer my house, Michael's debts, the scheme with Harold, the feeling of betrayal. Richard listened in silence, asking a few sharp questions along the way. Margaret, may I ask you some delicate questions about your finances? Of course. Do you own any other property besides your house? No, just the house. And a small savings account, about $50,000. Investments, stocks, bonds. No, I never understood that stuff. I always preferred traditional savings. Richard thought for a moment. And how much is your house worth, approximately? The last appraisal was $480,000. It's a big house in a good neighborhood. I see. Margaret, may I suggest something? But first, I need you to trust me. I looked into his eyes. There was sincerity there, and kindness. I'm listening. How about you sell your house to me? I nearly choked on my coffee. What? Let me explain. You'd sell the house to me for market value, $480,000, but you would keep living there for the rest of your life, only paying basic utilities like electricity and water. It would be like a symbolic rent of $200 a month just to make it legal. Richard, why would you do that? Because this way, you'd have $480,000 in cash. You could help your son with part of that if you want, but the rest would be protected. He couldn't pressure you or try to trick you anymore. It was an incredible offer, but I was confused. Richard, you haven't even seen my house. How can you want to buy it? He smiled. Margaret, $480,000 is what I spend on jet fuel in 2 months. This isn't about money. It's about helping someone who helped me when I needed it. But this sounds like disguised charity. No, Margaret, it's a fair deal. You sell me your house. I give you financial freedom and security. Everyone wins. I sat there in silence, processing the proposal. It was too generous to be true. Richard, I need to think about this. Of course. But Margaret, may I give you one piece of advice? Sometimes the people we love the most are the ones who hurt us the deepest. You need to protect yourself. That night, I couldn't sleep. Richard's proposal was tempting, but I still hoped Michael would change his mind. He was my son, after all. Maybe if I spoke to him again, calmly. On Friday morning, I called Michael. Mom, did you change your mind about the papers? Michael, I want to talk to you in person. Can we have lunch today? I'm really busy, Mom. Please, son, it's important. He sighed. Fine. Noon at the Panera in Winter Park. We arrived almost at the same time. Michael looked tired and nervous. We ordered sandwiches and sat at a table in the back. Son, I've thought a lot about our situation. I want to help you, but it has to be in a way that keeps me safe. His eyes lit up. So you're going to sign the papers? No, Michael, but I have another proposal. I told him about Richard Blackwood's offer to buy my house. Michael's face turned red with anger. Are you crazy, Mom? You're going to sell our family home to a stranger. Michael, Richard isn't a stranger. And more importantly, with the money from the sale, I can lend you $100,000 to pay off part of your debt. $100,000, Mom. I owe almost $300,000. Then you'll have to find another solution for the rest, maybe a traditional bank loan, or ask Harold for more time. Harold's already made it clear he won't wait, and no bank will lend me money in my situation. Son, $100,000 isn't nothing. It's a third of your debt. Michael slammed his fist on the table. A third solves nothing, Mom. Either I pay it all or I lose everything. Michael, lower your voice. People are staring. I don't care about people. You're my mother. You should support me unconditionally. And that's exactly what I'm doing, son. But supporting you doesn't mean letting myself be deceived. He stood up abruptly. You know what I think, Mom? I think you made up this whole billionaire story just so you wouldn't have to help me. Convenient, isn't it? What are you saying, Michael? Oh, please. A billionaire you met on the side of the road who now wants to buy your house. Sounds like a movie plot, Mom. I was stunned by his insinuation. Are you saying I'm lying? I'm saying it's very suspicious, and even if it's true, you're choosing a stranger over your own family. Michael, I'm not choosing anyone. I'm trying to find a solution that protects me and helps you. If you really wanted to help me, you'd sign the collateral papers. It's that simple. I stood up too. Son, this conversation is over. When you're ready to discuss real solutions, call me. Don't bother calling Mom. If you won't support me when I need you most, then we have nothing else to talk about. I left the restaurant with tears in my eyes. Michael had chosen money over our relationship. My own son was rejecting me because I wouldn't let myself be deceived. That afternoon, I called Richard Blackwood. Richard, this is Margaret. I accept your offer. When can we arrange the paperwork? The following Saturday, exactly 1 week after Harold's party, I was signing the deed to my house at Richard's office. He had hired an independent lawyer to represent me, making sure I understood every detail of the contract. The deal was even better than I imagined. In addition to living in the house for the rest of my life, paying only $200 a month, Richard included a clause granting me lifetime rights to the property. If I ever wanted to move out, I could rent the house and keep the income. When I walked out of the notary office with a check for $480,000 in my name, I felt free for the first time in weeks. Richard, how can I ever thank you? Margaret, you already thanked me when you stopped to help me on the road. Now you have your independence back. I'm still going to help Michael with $100,000, just like I promised. And the rest, I'll invest it safely. I want to secure my retirement and have money for emergencies. On Sunday, I called Michael and left a message on his cell phone. Son, I have $100,000 I can lend you. No interest, no collateral. You can pay me back whenever you can. But it has to be an honest loan with a signed contract. If you want it, call me. It took him 3 days to respond. Mom, did you really sell the house? I did, Michael, and my offer still stands, $100,000. Harold says a family loan won't fix anything. He wants real collateral. Well, then Harold is going to have to wait because I'm not giving any collateral. Mom, you don't get it. Harold isn't just my father-in-law. He's my boss. If I don't pay, he could fire me. Michael, you have a degree in business. You have experience. You can find another job. At 35, is in debt, fired for cause. What company is going to hire me? For the first time, I heard real desperation in my son's voice, not just anger or manipulation. Michael, take my loan and talk to an employment lawyer. If Harold fires you for personal reasons, you might have rights. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Mom, I need to talk to Sarah. Can I call you tomorrow? Of course, son. On Tuesday, Michael called again. His voice was different, softer, almost humble. Mom, I'll take the loan. Sarah talked to me and said I was being unfair to you. Sarah is a good girl, Michael. She always has been. Can I come over tonight so we can go over the details? Of course, son. I'll bake that chocolate cake you love. When Michael arrived, he brought the kids with him. Emma and Tyler ran to hug me like they always did. At least my grandkids hadn't been turned against me. Grandma, Mom said you sold the house. Are we going to have to move? Emma asked, her voice full of worry. No, sweetheart. Grandma's staying right here. I just changed the name on the papers. During dinner, we went over the loan details. I had prepared a simple contract, $100,000, no interest. 5 years to pay it back. Michael signed without hesitation. Mom, can I ask you something about this Richard Blackwood? Of course. Why did he do this? You barely know the man. I told him the whole story, how I met Richard on the road, our conversation, the lunch at the restaurant. Michael listened in silence. Mom, don't you think it's weird? A billionaire wouldn't need help from anyone on the side of the road. What do you mean? I mean, he could have called any premium tow service, a helicopter, whatever. Why would he accept a ride from a stranger? I paused. Michael had a point. Maybe he just wanted to see if there were still good people in the world, I suggested. Or maybe he had other motives. What motives, Michael? I don't know, Mom. I just think we should look into this guy before you get more involved with him. That night, after Michael left, I couldn't stop thinking about what he said. Could Richard have hidden motives? But what could they be? On Wednesday, I decided to dig deeper into Richard Blackwood online. I found dozens of articles about him. A successful businessman, philanthropist, divorced for 5 years, no kids. His company, Blackwood Industries, develops software for hospitals and generates over $2 billion in annual revenue. In a recent Forbes interview, he talked about loneliness and how money doesn't buy real happiness. He said he was looking for ways to make a difference in the lives of ordinary people. Maybe Michael was wrong. Maybe Richard really was just a rich man trying to do some good. But on Thursday, something happened that changed everything. I was at Publix grocery shopping when I ran into Dorothy, my attorney, in the dairy aisle. Margaret, how are you? I heard you sold your house. Hi, Dorothy. Yes, I did. Best decision I could have made. Who did you sell it to? Michael mentioned a guy named Richard Blackwood. That's right. A very kind businessman I met by chance. Dorothy's expression shifted. Margaret, can we talk in private? How about a coffee after you finish shopping? An hour later, we were sitting in the mall cafe, and Dorothy looked nervous. Margaret, I need to tell you something about Richard Blackwood. My heart skipped a beat. What is it? Yesterday, A fellow attorney casually mentioned that Blackwood Industries just bought a company called Torres Medical Solutions. Torres Medical Solutions. Never heard of it. It's a small medical equipment company, but Margaret, the name Torres caught my attention, so I did some digging and found something interesting. Dorothy pulled some papers from her bag. Torres Medical Solutions was founded 10 years ago by a man named David Torres. He died 3 years ago in a car accident. A chill ran down my spine. David Torres, that was my late husband's name. I know. That's why I dug deeper. Margaret, David Torres, founder of Torres Medical Solutions, was your husband. The world spun around me. That's impossible, Dorothy. My David was a nurse. He never owned a company. Margaret, are you sure? Sometimes spouses have side projects that... Dorothy, David and I were married for 20 years. He died in my arms at the hospital. If he had a company, I would have known. But even as I said that, memories started flooding back. In those last few years before David died, he sometimes came home late from work. He said he was working overtime, but I never saw the extra money in our budget. And those phone calls he took out in the yard, speaking in hushed tones. Dorothy, do you think Richard Blackwood bought my husband's company on purpose? That he knew who I was before that day on the road? Margaret, I don't want to make you paranoid, but that's a pretty big coincidence, don't you think? I left the cafe with my head spinning. If David really had a secret company, it explained so much. The mysterious bills I found after he died, some checks that came in the mail addressed to him. Back then, I thought they were banking errors. That night, I tore through every paper I had saved from David in a box in the bedroom. I found bank statements from an account I had never seen before, business correspondence, and, my God, contracts signed by him as CEO of Torres Medical Solutions. My husband had a company, and he never told me. Worse, according to the documents, Torres Medical Solutions was worth about $2 million when David died. Money that should have been mine by inheritance. Friday morning, I called Dorothy. Dorothy, you were right. David really had a company. I found all the documents. Margaret, this changes everything. If you're the rightful heir to Torres Medical Solutions, Blackwood Industries bought your company. But how? I never signed off on any sale. Margaret, we're going to have to investigate this carefully. There may have been document fraud. I hung up, feeling betrayed by every man in my life. First David, hiding a multi-million-dollar company from me. Then Michael, trying to steal my house. And now Richard Blackwood, who apparently wasn't the good Samaritan he pretended to be. I decided to confront Richard directly. I called his office. Mr. Blackwood, this is Margaret Torres. I need to speak with you urgently. Margaret, how are you? Is there a problem with the house? Richard, I need to meet with you today. It's about Torres Medical Solutions. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Margaret, can you come to my office at 3 this afternoon? The Blackwood Industries office was on the 40th floor of a glass tower in downtown Orlando. When I stepped off the elevator, a receptionist led me through sleek hallways into a conference room with a panoramic view of the city. Richard arrived 5 minutes later, but he wasn't alone. A man in a gray suit walked in with him. Margaret, this is James Murphy, my attorney. A cold shiver ran down my spine. If he brought a lawyer, he knew exactly why I was there. Richard, I'll be direct. I found out my late husband owned Torres Medical Solutions, the company your firm bought a few weeks ago. Richard sat down calmly. I know, Margaret. You knew from the start. From the start. It felt like a slap in the face. So when you broke down on the road, it was staged. I'd been waiting for you to drive by for 3 Saturdays in a row. You investigated me, the lawyer, James O., leaned forward. Mrs. Torres, my client wants to be transparent with you. Yes, he investigated you. And yes, the purchase of your house was planned. Planned for what? Richard sighed. Margaret. When we acquired Torres Medical Solutions, we discovered some irregularities. Your husband sold the company a month before he died to a shell investor, but the sale was fraudulent. What do you mean, fraudulent? David Torres forged his wife's signature on the documents. Under Florida law, spouses have to co-sign the sale of family-owned businesses. My head was spinning. So the sale was invalid. Completely invalid. You are the rightful owner of Torres Medical Solutions. Then why did you buy it anyway? James answered. Because we wanted to resolve the situation amicably. Torres Medical Solutions is worth $5 million today. Its technology has been integrated into our hospital systems. $5 million. My husband had left me $5 million without me knowing. Then why all the theatrics? Why not just come to me directly? Richard stood and walked to the window. Margaret, our investigation showed your family was trying to steal your house. We thought if we came in offering money, your son and your ex-father-in-law would find a way to take that money from you too. So you were protecting me. Protecting you and testing you. We wanted to know what kind of person you were before revealing the truth about your inheritance. James opened a folder. Mrs. Torres, we have an offer. We'd like to officially purchase Torres Medical Solutions for $5 million. But since you already sold your house to us for $480,000, we'll deduct that amount from the total. So I'll get $4.5 million. No, Richard said, coming back to the table. We're giving your house back, free of charge. You'll receive the full $5 million. I couldn't speak. $5 million. I had gone from a heartbroken, nearly broke retiree to a millionaire in 2 weeks. Why are you doing this, Richard? Because you stopped to help me on the road, even though you were late for an important event. Because when your family tried to deceive you, you refused to be a victim. Because when I offered help, you hesitated to accept charity. You're a good person, Margaret, and good people deserve good things. I signed the papers in a daze. When I left the building, I had a check for $5 million in my purse and the deed to my house back in my name. But there was still one question left: what to do about Michael. That night, he called, just like he said he would. Mom, how was your meeting with your billionaire friend? It was enlightening, Michael. He's not trying to scam you, is he? No, son. In fact, I found out your father left me an inheritance I didn't know about. I told him the whole story, the secret company, the fraudulent sale, Richard's investigation, the $5 million. Michael was silent for a long time. Mom, are you telling me you're a millionaire? That's right. And you're still only going to lend me $100,000. I couldn't believe it. After everything that had happened, my son's first reaction was to complain that I wasn't giving him more money. Michael, aren't you ashamed? Instead of being happy for your mother, you're whining about not getting more cash. Mom, you don't understand. With $5 million, you could pay off all my debts and still have over $4 million left. Michael, stop. Just stop. Mom, I'm your only son. That money will be mine anyway when you die. Why not give it to me now when I need it? I hung up. Saturday morning, Sarah showed up at my door with the kids. Mother-in-law, can I talk to you? Of course. Sarah, come in. The kids ran to the backyard while Sarah and I sat in the kitchen. Mother-in-law, Michael told me about the inheritance and about the phone call last night. Sarah, your husband disappointed me deeply. I know. That's why I came, to apologize on his behalf and to ask a favor. What favor? Please don't cut the kids off because of the nonsense Michael is pulling. I looked out the window and saw Emma and Tyler playing tag in the yard. They weren't to blame for their father's mistakes. Sarah, you're always welcome here. Michael, too, when he grows up. Thank you, and about the money. Sarah, Michael will get the $100,000 I promised. Not a dollar more, not a dollar less. I understand, honestly, I think that's the right call. What do you mean? Sarah sighed. Mother-in-law, Michael's always been spoiled. His dad gave him everything, and so did you. Maybe it's time he learns to stand on his own 2 feet. And Harold, how did he take the news that Michael won't have the full down payment? My father was furious, said Michael's incompetent and he's firing him Monday. And you? How do you feel about that? Scared, but also relieved. Maybe this is the wake-up call Michael needs to become a better man. Sunday, my peace was shattered by pounding at the door. It was Michael and Harold. Both looked furious. Mom, open the door. I opened it, leaving the security chain on. What do you want? Harold stepped forward. Margaret, cut the crap. You're going to wire Michael $300,000 today. I'm not wiring a damn thing, Harold. Yes, you are. Michael's your son, and family helps family. Family doesn't try to steal family's house. Harold, Michael yelled. Mom, don't be selfish. You've got $5 million. And you've got 2 hands to work, Michael. Harold's going to fire me. I'll be unemployed. Then you'll find another job. Harold slammed his fist against the door. Margaret, you'll regret this. I'll sue you for that money. I'll prove you're mentally incompetent. Go ahead, Harold. You'll lose. Why are you being like this, Mom? You were never mean to me before. I looked at my son through the crack in the door. His eyes held a greed I'd never seen before. Michael, I'm not being mean. I'm being smart. When you decide to be a real son instead of a leech, come find me. I shut the door and leaned against it, listening to them scream for a few more minutes before storming off. Monday morning, I called Dorothy. Dorothy, I need to make my will. Of course, Margaret. With $5 million, it's important to get everything in order. I want to set up an education fund for Emma and Tyler, $1 million each, accessible only when they turn 25. Great idea. And the rest? $1 million for Sarah, for how she's treated me. Another $1 million for charity. And $1 million for Michael. Only $1 million for Michael. Margaret, he's your son. Dorothy, if Michael can't live decently on $1 million, he wouldn't manage with 5 either. The remaining money I want invested for my security for the rest of my life. On Tuesday, Harold showed up at my door with a court officer. They had filed a lawsuit questioning my mental capacity. Mrs. Torres, You need to appear in court on Thursday for a psychological evaluation, the officer said. No problem. I'll be there. On Wednesday, I called Richard Blackwood. Richard, Harold is trying to sue me. He says I'm mentally incompetent. Margaret, that's ridiculous. Do you want me to recommend some lawyers? Actually, I wanted to know if you could testify for me in court. Of course, it would be my pleasure. On Thursday at the Orange County Courthouse, I faced Harold and Michael in a hearing I will never forget. Harold's lawyer, a short, aggressive man, argued that my decision not to help Michael proved senile dementia. Your Honor, what kind of normal mother would refuse to help her own son when she has $5 million? When it was my turn to speak, I stood with dignity. Your Honor, I'm 62 years old and worked 40 years as a nurse. I raised my son alone after my husband died. I gave him everything I could to ensure a good education and a strong start in life. But giving everything does not mean allowing myself to be deceived or robbed. I told the whole story. The attempt to transfer my house without my knowledge, the lies, the pressure from Harold. My son isn't asking for help, Your Honor. He's demanding money as if it were a right. That's not filial love. That's greed. Richard was called as a witness and confirmed my version of events. Dorothy also testified about the attempted real estate fraud. The forensic psychologist who examined me concluded that I was perfectly lucid and fully capable of making financial decisions. The judge, a stern-eyed woman in her 50s, delivered her decision. Mr. Harold Martin and Mr. Michael Torres, this case is clearly without merit. Mrs. Margaret Torres has demonstrated lucidity, coherence, and, frankly, more common sense than the petitioners. Case dismissed. When we left the courthouse, Harold approached me in the parking lot. Margaret, you'll regret this. Michael will have nothing more to do with you. Harold, if my son prefers you over me, then he never truly loved me in the first place. Michael blocked my car. Mom, a last chance. Give me the money or we're done. I looked into my son's eyes, searching for any trace of the sweet boy I once raised. But all I saw was greed and anger. Michael, your choice. Take the $100,000 loan and work to rebuild your life, or walk away from mine for good. So that's it. Over money, you're going to lose your only son. Michael, I'm not the one choosing money over family. He got in his car and screeched out of the parking lot. That was 2 months ago. Michael hasn't spoken to me since. Sarah brings the kids to visit every weekend, and they don't understand why their father never comes along. Grandma, is Daddy mad at you? Tyler asked last Sunday. Daddy's going through a tough time, sweetheart, but that has nothing to do with you. Sarah told me Harold did fire Michael, and now he's working as a used car salesman. He's making 1/10 of what he earned before, but at least it's honest work. Mother-in-law, sometimes I think it's for the best, she said. Michael was getting arrogant working for my dad. Maybe this humility will do him good. And the debts? He managed to renegotiate with some creditors. It won't be easy, but it's doable. Sarah, if you ever need help with the kids, I know, mother-in-law, thank you. As for me, I invested $4 million of the 5 into conservative funds that bring me about $20,000 a month. With that, I live comfortably and still help charities. Richard and I have become friends. We have lunch once a month, and he's introduced me to social circles I never imagined. I've discovered I enjoy opera and that I have a knack for bridge. Margaret, any regrets? He asked me at our last lunch. About what? Not giving Michael more money. I thought carefully before answering. Richard, for 35 years I was a mother who gave everything to her son: home, food, education, unconditional love. But I also gave him something terrible. I taught him he deserved to receive without giving anything in return. And now he's learning that in adult life, you have to work for what you want. It's a lesson I should have taught him a long time ago. And if he never speaks to you again, then at least I'll know I didn't raise a son who only comes to me when he needs money. The truth is, I miss Michael. I miss our conversations, family dinners, watching him play with the kids. But I don't miss being lied to, manipulated, or treated like a walking ATM. Sometimes I wonder if I was too harsh. But then I remember the look of contempt on his face when he found out I'd only lend him $100,000. I remember how he tried to trick me with the house collateral story. I remember how he treated me when he thought I was just a regular retiree. Money didn't change who I am. It only revealed who everyone else really was. Sarah told me last week that Michael asked if I was doing okay. It was the first time in 2 months he showed any concern that wasn't about my money. "Tell him I'm doing great," I replied. "And when he's ready to talk to me as a son, not as a creditor, he knows where to find me." I don't know if Michael will come back. I don't know if he'll ever get past the wounded pride and greed Harold has been feeding all these years. But I do know I made the right choice. I'd rather be a mother alone but respected than a mother surrounded by opportunists. And when I look out the kitchen window and see Richard Blackwood pulling up for another one of our weekly lunches, I'm reminded that there are still good people in this world. People who stop to help strangers on the side of the road. People who use their wealth to protect the vulnerable. People who understand that a person's true worth isn't measured by a bank account. One day, Michael will understand that too. At least, that's what I hope. Until then, I'll keep living my life, enjoying my financial independence, spoiling my grandkids, and reminding myself that sometimes the greatest act of love is saying no. That's what happened to me. A simple roadside stop to help someone changed my life forever. It showed me who my real friends were and who the opportunists were. It gave me back the dignity I was slowly losing. And if you take anything away from my story, let it be this: never allow anyone, even family, to treat you like you're nothing more than a source of money. You are worth so much more than that. Thank you for listening. I hope my story helps you make the right choices in your own life. Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective. And if this story made you reflect, give the video a like and subscribe to the channel for more real, powerful stories like this one. Because in the end, every story is a chance to see life through new eyes.